Alright guys, welcome back. And so today's video that I'm going to do is going back to the nutrition thing. If you haven't seen the last two videos I put in, the part 1 and part 2 on nutrition, go ahead and go back and watch those. The reason why I'm doing this video is because though the technical aspects of that are very, very important, and it gives you a better understanding, I think, of how to approach nutrition, or at least how nutrition generally works within your body. But I don't necessarily think that's the most practical way of doing it. So I want to come back through here, and I want to go through this kind of again from the very get-go, but we're going to go very, very short on this. Like, I won't publish this video if it's too long. That's how serious I am. I say that now. All right. So, guys, remember that we have 3 types of macronutrients. This should be really basic to you guys. It's going to be carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. You want to be sticking to complex carbohydrates as much as possible, and you want to have as close to nature as you possibly can with that. So what I mean is that like white rice and brown rice are the exact same species of rice. So if somebody says, okay, I want jasmine rice when I work at my Asian restaurant, you know, it's like, well, they're both jasmine rice, but the difference is that the brown rice has had the husk and whatnot removed. It's actually broken down to become white rice from the brown rice variety. So it's the same plant. It's the same rice. It's just one's more processed than the other. And the same thing is true for flours and whatnot. So when you're looking at the store and you're like trying to pick out a bread or something else that is some type of baked good, you want to be looking for the word whole, because that is regulated by the FDA as being the major thing in there, right? And going back to carbohydrates, you know, we talked about that when you have a simple versus complex carbohydrate, what happens is that your blood sugar spikes, you release a bunch of insulin, and then the unused sugars get stored as fat. So anytime that you have, you know, any type of simple sugar or even more complex sugar, but lots of it, you're going to most likely be storing that as quickly as possible, or taking it out of your bloodstream. And once your stores are as full as they're going to get, you know, you're going to do something with that excess energy. So, and that's the thing when it comes to carbohydrates, is that at any given time you can create a caloric surplus. And that's what people just generally don't understand. So if I have gummy bears and I'm sitting at my computer all day, or a soda or something like that, it's going to immediately spike my blood sugar. Juice is another one. And it's going to create a caloric surplus in that moment. But if I am already in an energy deficit because I just finished a workout, then what I'm doing is I'm replenishing my glycogen stores. And that's not necessarily going to inhibit your ability to lose weight if that's your goal. So the simple sugars at the very end of your workout are going to kind of restore balance rather than otherwise. But I'm not saying that that's the best thing to eat right after your workout either, right? I'm just saying if you're going to eat it anyways, that's the time to do it, because you're less likely to store that as fat. So, you know, generally speaking, you want to stick to the complex carbohydrates as much as possible. Going back to protein, remember that we want to not eat too much of it at any given time. We want basically half of what you would think as a serving of meat if you're going to be eating meat. Generally, you can only process 20 to 25 grams of protein per sitting. And excess protein, especially, you know, even, you know, excess protein anytime throughout your day or throughout a 24-hour period, if you go over your limit, it's just going to bog down your kidneys, right? Fats, we have trans fats, saturated fats, and unsaturated fats. You want to be focusing on the ones that are not solid and not necessarily inflammatory, right? So, you know, you might say, well, I'm having this unsaturated fat that I'm deep frying something in. Well, now you're putting all types of toxins in your body because you're taking that fat way too high up. There's even some debate whether or not we should even be cooking with fats at all. So I kind of try to dial it back as much as I possibly can, and I don't use things like Crisco or anything like that for any reason. Even my pie crusts, they don't turn out as well with butter, but I do prefer them with butter over a artificial fat like that. So trans fats linked to heart disease, or saturated fats, fully hydrogenated oils are also saturated fats that can lead to heart disease. So we talked about that, and I'm starting to get long-winded here. We talked about the glycemic index. So yes, some things have a high glycemic, how much it spikes your blood sugar when you eat it. But if you mix it with other foods like meats or fats or something like that, that's going to slow down that digestion. And fiber is another one of those that does it. And fiber stops your colon from getting clogged. So look at that. So going here, we talked about this, and I kind of I have this little form here, and I gave you your resting metabolic rate, the simple formula for that, which is going to be your weight times 10, and that's weight in pounds. And the issue with that is it's just an estimate, guys. We're just getting a ballpark here, and then you multiply it by how active you are. So sedentary 1.2 to 1.3, moderately active 1.4 to 1.6, active 1.7 to 2.0, and that should give you your maintenance level, or at least it's going to be close to that, right? And then we figure out what our macro balance is. So for carbohydrates, we're looking at 45 to 65% of our calories from carbohydrates. And if you want to find out the grams of how much carbohydrate that is, you divide it by 4. All right. Protein, 10 to 35, that you would also divide by 4 to get the grams. And then fats, 20 to 35% of your calories from fats, and you divide that by 9, right? So per gram, there are 4 calories per gram of protein and carbohydrate, and there's 9 per fats. And then we talked about supplementation and how you really shouldn't trust the supplement industry. Now, if you have a vitamin deficiency, follow your doctor's recommendation. Use the vitamins that they want, but generally speaking, and I've had a talk with this about a research doctor that I'm friends with, and he mostly focused on peptides and whatnot. But one of the things that he said, we had a discussion about kombucha and other stomach happy things that like help your flora and all that. The thing about that is, and this is what he said, was that you don't just grab a strain of whatever type of flora that you're trying to put into your body, right? Because you don't know where you're deficient. So if you have an imbalance of one type of flora versus another, of one type of probiotic versus another, you are potentially unbalancing what's already unbalanced in your stomach. So if you have stomach issues, it's really important with they would actually have to test your stomach matter to find out what bacterias you have in there that are good and what balance that they're at. There's not enough research in that department to really balance it out. So sometimes you can be screwing yourself up a lot more by taking in some type of probiotic to fix with that. Now, the reason why I'm doing this video, now that I've kind of reviewed the basics on that, and remember the recommendations that I've given you here are based on the American Dietetics Association, which I realized, yes, they have changed their name, in their recommendations, which takes into account thousands upon thousands of studies over the last 100 years to come to the conclusions that they've done, versus the 15 or so studies that we talked about that quite a bit, and I'm hopefully not getting angry comments. I didn't get them last time, so maybe I won't get them this time. So that's great. So what I'm doing this video for is more kind of giving you more of a practical view of this, guys. So again, it's a great thing to know where your calories are supposed to be. It's a good thing to know what your macronutrient ranges should look like. But that doesn't translate into food very well for people. And you're not going to be sitting there measuring out your food every single day. So like I said in the last video, the New York Times and a couple of other places have done articles on what does 200 calories look like, what do 2,000 calories look like. And again, your caloric load, how many calories you need, is going to be very individual to you, so you have to use that formula to figure that out. And then if you are trying to, for 2 weeks, trying to stay on that exact number, and you go up or you go down, well, then your caloric need is different than that, and it's going to be constantly changing. So, basically finding that out is trying to find out a ballpark. And so using, like MyFitnessPal or other apps that have nutrition tracking, you can plan out days, and you can noodle with that and try to find out, okay, what does this look like? So what does this day look like? And try it that day. It's much easier to plan ahead and eat that way than it is to check at the end of the night and see, well, what did I do well? What did I not do? And again, when we're looking at snacks and guilty pleasures and whatnot, you're going to stick to those. Guys, there's no way that you're going to change that part of who you are. And nor should you, right? We're talking about quality of life here. And so, what you can do and you should do is you should be trying to find the things that make you feel the best, that give you the best energy, and experimenting with those things. And if you have a guilty pleasure that's not doing you good, well, maybe you need to start lowering the amount that you're having that. Looking for better choices that you can replace that guilty pleasure with. So again, chocolate, you can go to dark chocolate, which might make you feel like, I don't want to have any more chocolate, relatively faster than, say, milk chocolate would. If you are like me and you've had Dorito problems in the past, you might start moving away. I know that when I practice jiu-jitsu, when I'm wrestling and whatnot, Doritos make me feel really shitty. I don't like having them on days that I wrestle, and I get canker sores when I have too much of them and all that, and so I recognize that is problematic for me. And so those are things that I cut out of my diet, right? So you do what's going to make you perform the best and what's going to make you feel the best. And you're going to be taking those little baby steps and trying to, because the deal is that if you were to one day just say, fuck it, I'm going to go completely crazy and I'm going to completely change the way I live my life, you're not going to change who you are. I'm sorry. What's going to happen is that you're going to eat that way for a few days, maybe a week if you're lucky, maybe a month. You might succeed for an entire month. But eventually, who you are is going to sneak back in there. And so if you were to gradually make those changes, your body says, okay. Your mind says, okay, I can adapt to this. And if you start to reprogram yourself to love vegetables, to love cleaner foods, making more stuff at home, yeah, it's work, but it's ultimately going to pay off for you. And I'm going to be honest here because you guys have seen me in a lot of spandex, and you've seen me working out, and some of those videos really show off how much I still have a bit of a gut. And that's, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I went through a really bad period of depression that I'm starting to get over at this point in time, and finally. And during that period of time, I put on a lot of weight. I was creeping up to 200 pounds. I'm right now at, last I checked, about 168. 165, I'll probably be actually looking pretty good. I might make it all the way down to 160. But the point about that is that, depression is going to be a factor. But if you start cleaning yourself up and you start making sure that you're getting enough sleep, because that's another thing that's going to toy with your weight and your energy. You watch which types of carbohydrates you're having when. And it's not about eating less, guys. If you guys look at those articles that I recommended you looking at for seeing images of what different caloric loads look like, what you're going to find is that if you are eating clean, you are ultimately going to eat more food. And that's one of the things that really upsets me when I talk to people who've been really struggling with trying to lose weight. Is that, they always say, oh, I keep eating less and I keep eating less and I'm always hungry and all that. It shouldn't be like that. You might be a little bit hungry. Your stomach might not be the most happy when you're going through a big weight loss. Mine's been fine, to be completely honest with you. But generally speaking, if you eat cleaner, you're probably going to eat a larger volume of food and probably going to start feeling full more often, and you're probably going to find that your bowels are working better too. So really take a step back and ask yourself those questions. And I know that, for personal trainers, we tend to make it always about fat loss. That's not always the case. You guys might be looking at this video and going, what do I do for performance? Well, the same thing, right? You clean it up. You find out what makes you feel best in what moments, and you would make those adjustments to give you the best feeling, the best energy, because that's what we're ultimately trying to find for all of us. And that's going to be true. So you generally, you're going to probably be a little bit carb heavy, especially when you're about to go into a jiu-jitsu workout. Yes, carbs make you feel hungry a little bit more often. That's fine, guys, as long as you're using them. So if you wanted to cut back your carbs and you want to be kind of on that lower end of what the RDAs are, go ahead and do that. If you're sitting at a desk, there's no reason for you to be having 65% of your calories from carbohydrate. That's probably actually going to make you feel more miserable. But if you are, you know, an active person, you're working in construction, you're working busy, you know, having snacks throughout your day, dividing your meals up instead of 2 or 3 into like 5 or 6, yeah, you're going to have better energy, and you might actually enjoy that. So look at those things and try to find little changes that you can make. Find out what your baselines are, but and try to find ways to translate that into an actual practical approach. And I hope this has helped. If it hasn't helped, say so in the bottom. Say what you need from me, because guys, I am totally here for you, and yeah, I want to help in any way I can. So I'm gonna get on to some guard stuff here in a second. So here we go.